102. Mostly clear, 75 tonight. Sunny, 103 tomorrow. Sunday, sunny, high 104. Staff meteorologist John Weatherby, Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
We've got sunshine in the valley. Our temperature now is 96 degrees. The Dow is down 161 points at 17,878. The S&P 500 is down 17 at 2092. NASDAQ off 35 points at 5048. Reporting from Money Radio, I'm Dawn Nietzsche.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're a show found right here on Money Radio, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM, weekly, straight up at noon on Fridays, coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park studio. And you can also catch us on the World Wide Web at www.moneyradio1510.com. It is June the 12th, and I have been remarking for the last, let's call it 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks, how incredible the weather has been, and I think finally summer is here. They're calling today to be about 104 degrees. It's a little hot out, but the stickiness is now gone. So I'm here today with a guest that used to have his own show here, and if you're just tuning in, our show is a weekly show about how to live a healthier, happier life. And I am the managing partner for Cypress Home Care Solutions, a 21-year-old home care agency right here in the Valley. When we first started, there were less than 10 companies that do what we do, and now there are over 700 that attempt to do what we do in helping our aging adult population be able to exist in their home where they find that the best place to be. And I have brought to you, our listeners, so many incredible guests that can add value to our loved ones' lives. And our guest today is no different. As I said, he had his own show here. He's affectionately known as the Law Dog, and he used to be in a family business called the Dana Law Firm. And recently, he joined a much bigger firm with incredible brand appeal, not just here locally, but nationally, and I think internationally, too. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt Dana from Quarles & Brady.
Wow, Bob, great. Thank you for that great welcome, and it's so nice to see you do the radio. You know, I've sat on your side of the table for so many years, and you've got that radio voice. You've got the demeanor.
I got the face for radio, right?
I wish people had a camera could see you here, because I wouldn't even know you had anything to do with aging population. You look like you were born to be a DJ.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here, because the field you are in is so vital to our aging adult population, because it really is about planning. And,
Sure.
you know, it's that old adage that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Right.
And so many of us have not taken that opportunity. And your firm, and you particularly, are exceptional at that. And I think that was one of the things, and pardon me if I say this, and you're welcome to chime in, I think that's one of the things that attracted Quarles & Brady to you, and you to Quarles & Brady.
Well, that's a nice compliment, and I appreciate you saying that. But you know, Dana Law Firm is. I've been practicing in Phoenix for 30 years, and of course, the Dana family's 5 generations here in Arizona. And you know, we started a real niche company 30 years ago and stuck with it. Built a very good estate planning practice, and hopefully, most of our listeners have heard of Dana Law Firm, and certainly, I think they know the Dana name if they've been in the Valley for any particular amount of time. You and I have been friends for 10 years.
Probably.
You know, our paths cross many times, and I like the direction both of us are taking our companies and our careers, and it's fun to watch you succeed in your business, and I've had some success. And certainly when Quarles and Brady came knocking on my door about 1.5 years ago, I had no thought or any idea that I would leave Dana Law Firm and do anything different. But, you know, Quarles and Brady needed our services, and it was an opportunity where it wasn't just me involved. I was able to take our top 8 employees from Dana Law Firm. I brought, most of our listeners remember Trevor Whiting was my sidekick for so many years. Trevor came over with me, and Todd Smith, and I think things are going great.
Your assistant Terry, she come over with you too?
Terry Deemer came over with us, and we had Jennifer and Kate, our 2 top paralegals. So,
well, I'll tell you what, a good assistant is paramount to success, and Terry is exceptional.
She's probably listening, so she's probably in tears right now. So that's nice of you to say that.
Is her performance review up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's thanks for doing that. And,
well, you're welcome.
You know, and the other thing, a lot of people remember the Dana Law Firm building here in North Scottsdale, right at, you know, by the air park on the east side of the freeway, and kind of brought a tear to my eye when the name Dana Law Firm came down. But I got over it real fast when Quarles and Brady put their name up and signed a 5-year lease. So I'm the landlord of the building, and then you learn to get over things real fast.
You do.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that makes our specialties, our business is so unique, is the fact is that we're in the business of taking care of people.
Yeah.
And it's the dynamics of people are so different from one to the other. And you and I both know that you can't take a square peg and push it down a round hole.
Every case is different, isn't it?
Every one of them is unique, whether it comes to home care or whether it comes to legal planning and advice that you need to give. And I think that if our listening audience can take anything away from this, is to really understand that you can't get something off the internet.
Yeah.
You know, you hear the LegalZoom commercials, and trust me, we have not scripted this at all today to talk about those internet things. But yes, those services are inexpensive, and yes, you can probably maybe get by with it. But you know what? You open yourself up to vulnerabilities.
Do you really want to take your whole life earnings and savings and your whole legacy and trust it to an internet? I mean, and I think, Bob, especially when it comes to estate planning, I don't think these self-help products on the internet are really that successful. Now, I think there's a place for internet legal services, maybe a basic deed, a basic lease, some of these types of contracts. But when it comes to your estate plan and your legacy, I think most people do want the services of a lawyer.
Absolutely. And in my space, in home care, just recently there have been new entries into our space. One, we talked about registries on this show, about contractors who look like an agency but really are independent contractors and don't have the safeguards that an employer-based agency like Cypress has. But 2, there have been some internet solutions just like LegalZoom that have become available. They're more like Uber-like.
Yeah.
So that you can go to your phone. There was one company that was funded with $15 million from one individual and another $5 million in a raise, $20 million to do home care on a Apple iPhone or a Droid, where you can order a caregiver. Is that crazy?
I don't see how that works. But I was impressed by your numbers at the beginning of the show, and sure eye-opening to understand that you were one of the first 10 in Phoenix. I mean, that's impressive. 26 years.
21 years.
I mean, it's kind of reminds me of a country western song. You were country before country was popular. Tammy Wynette song, I think. But congratulations.
Well, thank you, and I do want to apologize. I know you like the cowboy tunes, and I've got some really good tunes here.
It's relaxing me.
The next time I get you on, we'll do some
John
Wayne or Gunsmoke or something like
that. Tombstone.
There you go. Well, we got the Law Dog here, Matt Dana from Quarles and Brady. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We will be right back.
Here's your Money Minute with Market Wrap host Mo Ansari.
If you're taking the time to create a financial plan, great. You're ahead of the game, as less than a third of Americans have one, according to Forbes magazine. But how long has it been since you looked at that plan? Has your life changed since then? Maybe you got married, changed jobs, had children, or inherited some money. Changes in life often require changes to your financial plan, so it could be time for a review. As Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Of course, you should always consider professional guidance before making any financial decisions. That's your Money Minute. I'm Mo Ansari.
For more tips on financial planning and other investment topics, listen to Market Wrap weekdays at 5 p.m. on this station. For a free consultation with Mo Ansari, call 800-388-9700. That's 800-388-9700.
Compact Asset Management is a registered investment advisor. Funds custodian, Fidelity Institutional Wealth Services, member FINRA SIPC.
You don't have to worry about, okay, do I have to look at the dollar? I don't have time to know if the dollar goes up, why it's going up. Who's going to tell me that? You think your broker, your planner's going to tell you that? Of course not. But here at Phil's Gang, you haven't got to worry about that. I will set the stocks up for you. Every morning I tell my students, if the dollar is going to be up today, here's the stocks we're going to be in. If the dollar's going to be down today, here's the stocks we're going to be in. Does your planner do that? Does your money manager do that for you every day? I do that for my gang every day. And the main thing is the bank stocks. If these aren't doing good, you know the economy sucks. And right now, the banks aren't going up. They know a correction is coming. And we know another QE4 is coming. We are setting up for a nice correction. And if you're a gang member, you're going to take advantage of that and you're going to make money as the market goes down. Yes, you are.
For more information, simply go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.
At Kubota, value means getting more than you expected for less than you thought. Visit your Kubota dealer today for incredible finance offers and instant cash rebates. That's value. That's Kubota.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you're just tuning in right now, I've got Matt Dana from the Quarles and Brady Law Firm here in the house with us to talk to us about planning. And if you missed the first segment, you can always catch it up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. There's a radio button halfway down or up on the very top. You can catch this first segment that you just missed and these next three later on in the day. So, Matt, when we broke, we were talking about these really inexpensive solutions that are out there for both of our businesses. And our businesses are about people. And my business is about caring about people. And yours, too, is about caring about people because you care about the clients that you serve, about them being able to preserve their wealth. And the one thing that attracted me to you, 5+ years ago, it may have been 10 years ago, is that you have been creative enough to use the tax laws to your benefit or your client's benefits to be able to preserve as much capital as possible. And before we get into that, I want our listening audience to know a little bit about you. I know you used to have a show here when you were with the Dana Law Firm, and now you're at Quarles, and you're talking about possibly coming back on. But tell us a little bit about Matt Dana. I know 5 generations here. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity. And, I think we had our show here on Money Radio for probably 3 years or 4. The years just escape us, don't they, Bob?
They do.
But anyway, we called it the Law Dog, and I think I did that because of Wyatt Earp. He was the original Law Dog from Tombstone, and
I love it.
We love to kind of talk about that Western background because my family is 5 generations into Phoenix, and I tell people I'm about 20% cowboy, and there's a lot of people that would dispute that. I'm probably 100% cowboy at heart. And you see my leather binder here, and you come to our office and you see my dad's barnwood. And
the barnwood's spectacular, and the leather and just the motif that you have.
All we're trying to do there, Bob, you and I both, we try to create a brand.
Right.
We want people when they hear our name to think of something. But I think Dana Law Firm, I started Dana Law Firm 1989 with myself, one paralegal, and one assistant. And over the next 25, 30 years, when we end up merging with Quarles and Brady, Dana Law Firm had 12 attorneys, accumulated 10,000 clients in the state. That's remarkable.
Multiple offices.
13 offices. 13.
Wow.
Prescott, Payson, Sedona, Safford, Tucson. I mean, on and on and on.
All those places, by the way, are cowboy areas.
Well, and Bob, my business model was simple. I was coming out of school and getting started. I was a small fish in a big pond. And I thought I could do better being a big fish up in a small pond. So I built my career in rural Arizona.
Kind of like the Walmart model.
It is the Walmart model, and it's also a model that I wanted to become an expert in one thing. Being a general practitioner in law, I think those days are gone. 30 years ago, it was a real debate among lawyers. Do you specialize? Do you stay general? And, your parents' lawyers, they were all generalists.
Right.
You had a family lawyer and you had them for 30 years and they did everything. Those days are gone. I mean, you probably use 5 or 6 different lawyers for different things.
Right.
And that's the world we live in. And I think I was smart enough to see the future. I think if you asked the keys to success, I think the biggest key was specializing at an early stage, being good at estate planning. And with my background as a CPA, and I have an LLM from NYU in taxation, and with my experience, I sold life insurance with Northwestern Mutual while I was in college. You throw that all into the mix, and you end up with a very good estate planning practice.
Well, I'll tell you what, you did have an incredible estate planning practice, and I see, and I'm not a lawyer, but I see what Quarles saw in you.
Yeah.
And I see what you're talking about especially. And the nice thing, too, is that, Quarles has got some great lawyers there that have other specialties outside estate planning.
Yeah. And how lucky was I to find Quarles, because I don't think there's very many big law firms that would have been a good fit for estate planning. I think, start with the proposition, a lot of the larger national firms have a hard time understanding estate planning, because in estate planning, we're very slow to turn on our watch. And we believe in flat fees. And most big firms, it's all about billable hours. And I know you kind of want to know what makes me different from most people. And I think one thing is we never charge a client for the initial consult. We believe that we have to have time to create a relationship.
I love that.
Second of all, when we do meet and we have a discussion, we'll quote a flat fee. I don't think clients like the concept of an open checkbook and hourly rates. And I think you also know, Bob, that we're big believers in using flow charts. And I think, especially when it comes to estate planning, there are some issues. It's hard for people to visualize what's going to happen when they die and their wife is still alive, and what happens when they're both gone and the kids are alive. And I think a flow chart can tell the story on one page of, one sheet of paper, rather than seeing a 40-page document.
And the nice thing about a flow chart, and so the listening audience knows this, I had you do some work for me.
Yeah.
I was impressed with going to a couple of your seminars, and it helps us be visual.
Sure.
I mean, and I'm a very visual person, and you know what? Legal jargon and legal stuff is very confusing. And like you said, looking at a 40-page document, which may end up being the final product, but at the same time, you can put an exhibit up and say, okay, this is the way we're going to divide up the assets.
To me, it's like looking at an X-ray. It's like, here's an X-ray of your body, and here's what's going to happen. And I think clients really appreciate that. And I think estate planning. You and I are both in a practice area with the baby boomers. What's the number? How many retire every?
10,000 a day.
10,000 a day.
10,000 a day.
And in my business, like your business, sometimes people don't think about estate planning until they retire. You and I both know they should think about it earlier, but they tend to put it off. But what a market out there.
It is incredible, and I've shared the statistic with our listening audience before, and I just want to pull it out here just so everyone really understands that we are going through a huge shift in our population.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the aging.
I like to hear those numbers.
By 2056, so we're talking 40 years from now, and trust me, 40 years goes by in a blink of an eye. And just so you know, 40 years ago this summer was when Jaws came out.
Is that crazy?
And I remember Jaws. Yeah. And you grew up here, and I grew up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And we used to go to the ocean.
Yeah, that puts that in perspective.
Let me tell you something. there weren't a lot of people going in the ocean that summer.
Yeah.
They were scared to death of the great white shark.
And our generation still thinks of that every time we go in the ocean.
So 40 years from now,
40
years from now, there are going to be more people in our country that are 65 and older than 18 and younger. And that's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
So we got a shrinking workforce for caregiving.
Yeah.
And, I gave the statistic before, and it came out from the American Red Cross. And the American Red Cross, the AARP, Public Policy Institute, did a study back in 2013 in September. And they showed that persons likely being caregivers, paid caregivers or family caregivers, 45 to 64 years old, caring for someone 80 plus. Presently, right now, today, we have about 7 available caregivers for every aging adult that needs care.
Okay.
By 2030, nationally, we'll have 4. Here in Arizona, we'll have 2.6.
Wow.
That's 15 years from now.
Yeah.
By 2050, which is another 25 years from, or 25, that's 35 years from now, we're going to have 2.9 nationally, and we're going to have 1.8 here. So we have a really big shift in population, and we need to help educate people about a lot of things. And one of them is the very work you do, estate planning and planning.
Well, I think the number one thing you hear about, we all have aging, you and I aren't getting any younger, certainly, but, at our age, I don't have any of my parents alive, but I have my 2 in-laws. And we always hear the case, maybe the parents live in Florida and the kids live in Chicago, and mom and dad, this question of, where do you put them and how do you provide for their care and who's going to do that? These are things that just scare most people. They don't even know where to go to begin to look.
And it's interesting you say that. I mean, because most people don't think about that in advance. They don't have advance directives.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and I've used this word on the radio, and I don't think it's a bad word, but they have one of those oh crap moments.
Yeah.
They get a phone call. Mom or dad has fallen, broken her pelvis, broken a hip, broken a shoulder. They're in a hospital.
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
Right.
Or they get a diagnosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and that's why, us as baby boomers today and our aging adult loved ones like your in-laws, my dad, my wife's mother, we need to put these plans in place.
Do you think we start, do you call that an aging plan? Do you recommend that the family actually sit down with mom and dad and say, you know what, let's have a plan before this happens? Is that what you recommend people do? Or
you know what, I know we're coming up on a quick hard break, but we've talked about it here on the show, and I want to talk about in the next segment. I want families to have the conversation now.
Yeah.
I want families to, and it's not a conversation you just have.
This sounds like a sex talk.
But it's not a conversation you have once.
No. But it's a conversation that needs to happen, but it's difficult. I remember my parents said,
by the way, Ash is blushing. She's losing it over there. It's not a sex talk.
It's like a sex talk, Ash. I remember Nancy, my wife, saying, Matt, we've got to have a conversation with our kids.
We do.
Now we're saying, hey, we got to have a conversation with our parents.
Yeah, but the conversation with our kids was about the birds and the bees.
There you go.
But we really need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more in the next segment. But, we as professionals, people that are working with the aging adult population, we see the other side when you don't have the conversation.
Sure.
And it is detrimental to the families. It kills families. And we can talk about some examples of some national people that did not make plans. One in particular I think of as the Miami Dolphins, Joe Robbie and his family. We'll talk about that when we get back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I've got Matt Dana, the law dog, in the studio. We will be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
The White House has said no to a big part of President Obama's trade agenda.
White House correspondent Jim Acosta.
He could just not get House Democrats to come on board, despite going out to the congressional baseball game last night, despite going up to Capitol Hill today. The president has struck out.
Authorities are learning more and more each day from a prison employee involved with those two escaped killers. She is Joyce Mitchell. And now correspondent Randy Kay reports her husband may be implicated in the escape.
They're getting information through interviews that he could have been involved, or at the very least he did have knowledge.
This is day 7 in the search for David Sweat and Richard Matt. The parents of a woman who heads the Spokane, Washington NAACP say their daughter is not black. Rachel Dolezal is accused of falsely portraying herself as African American. Right now, the Dow is 130 points lower. S&P is off 13. I'm Evan Haining.
At Choice Hotels, we know business trips start with a choice. Stay or go. You can press send or press palms. Start a chat room or chat in an actual room. Just remember, opportunities won't come to you. You got to get out there to get things done.
Should I stay or should I go?
ChoiceHotels.com makes it fast and easy to find a range of Choice Hotels like Comfort Inn and Suites. So stay with us for business and book now at ChoiceHotels.com. You always have a choice.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge all across America, so everyone can test drive America's best-selling brand.
Oh, wow. Ford has really stepped up.
I definitely feel the EcoBoost.
They really kicked the competition's butt on this.
So come get behind the wheel and experience the new Ford lineup for yourself.
Awesome. I want to do it again and again and again.
My opinion of Ford has dramatically changed.
Hurry to your local Ford dealer for the EcoBoost Challenge sales event going on now. Best-selling based on 2014 calendar year sales.
At Money Radio, we're 24/7. That means the weekends are also full of great info and entertainment. Relax with us this Saturday and Sunday. You'll like it.
Attention boomers and retirees. Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200, to learn about an asset allocation strategy that encompasses up to 50 dividend-paying stocks, up to 10 exchange-traded funds in different sectors of our market, up to 12 high-yield corporate bonds, and the principal-protected low-cost new generation annuity to ensure a potentially secure retirement. 800-957-5604 and dial extension 200 to set up your complimentary strategy session with Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions, or go online at www.theripa.com. That's 800-957-5604, extension 200. Call today. Please read prospectus for risks, fees, and charges. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
ProCopy is changing the way your company buys copiers and printers. ProCopy is offering a 100%, no questions asked, 12-month money-back guarantee. If for any reason during the first year you don't love your Ricoh copier from ProCopy, you simply give it back. No questions asked. Just tell us in writing and we pick it up. Of course, we plan on giving you the great service you've come to expect from ProCopy, including our famous 2.5-hour response time and free after-hour support, so you continue to love us and to remember.
If your fax is jammed or your copies look sloppy, dial 602. ProCopy.
Today, more than ever, Americans need a means to protect their life savings. Birch Gold Group offers peace of mind for your nest egg through a rollover to an IRA backed by physical gold. Take advantage of the long-term stability that gold provides by investing in a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, the precious metal IRA specialists. Call Birch Gold Group today at 888-999-5191 and receive their free information kit on gold. Call 888-999-5191. That's 888-999-5191.
At Kubota, value means getting more than you expected for less than you thought. Visit your Kubota dealer today for incredible finance offers and instant cash rebates. That's value. That's Kubota.
I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now. After its talks with the online video game broadcaster Twitch failed to lead to an acquisition last year, Google has decided to build its own gaming website. Today, Google's YouTube unit rolled out a new app and website called YouTube Gaming that streams live and recorded video game play. It will be available this summer in the U.S. and the U.K. Last year, Twitch became the 4th largest source of U.S. internet traffic, and the company was acquired by Amazon. We're feeling a lot better about the economy lately, with expectations about bigger paychecks lifting spirits. The University of Michigan's preliminary June sentiment index is up from May's level. Our personal financial prospects are the most favorable they've been since 2007. That report hasn't helped stocks pull out of negative territory. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 144 points. The NASDAQ Composite is down 30 points. That's your money now.
T-Mobile is changing the way business does wireless, and millions of business customers have helped make the Un-carrier the fastest-growing wireless company in America. T-Mobile customer Russell Prutz from Grimm Brothers Brewhouse in Colorado explains why.
In our business, we're used to setting the trend. T-Mobile has actually come to us and said, we see what's going on in your business. Here's how we can help. So we jumped ship. We went to T-Mobile, and we haven't looked back since. Ever since we moved over to T-Mobile, we've never had an issue with billing. We've never had a problem with reception or equipment. So the difference really has been night and day.
Switch your business to the Un-carrier and get the Un-contract. We'll lock in your rates without locking you into an annual service contract. Find a T-Mobile store today at T-Mobile.com/business.
Rate lock with Simple Choice for Business Plan for as long as you are a customer. Unlimited high-speed data, pricing good for at least 2 years. See a T-Mobile store for details. Customer participation was compensated.
Listen now, law dog. Law don't go around here. Savvy?
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, and you just heard some of that cowboy tune that Matt Dana was talking about. We got an incredible producer here.
Wow,
Ash.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know what it is about that John Wayne music, but still, when I watch that, that's from John Wayne and the Cowboys.
Wow.
That's the intro music where they're herding about 200 horses into a pen. And it just does something to me. And that was the lead into my show. And when I come back on the air, it'll be my lead in. And then the quote from Tombstone, that was the famous quote. Now, listen now, Law Dog. Law don't go around here. And that's from the Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer movie Tombstone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, so much of the John Wayne movies were filmed right here in Arizona, right by Pecachco Peak. I just rode by it this morning.
He had a ranch up in Springerville, so
he had a ranch in Springerville, and he also owned a lot of land in Maricopa. Matter of fact, there's a golf course there called the Duke.
Yeah.
And he used to own that land.
You can't think of Arizona without thinking of our great Western heritage, and certainly John Wayne played a big part of that, of trying to capture and preserve that heritage.
And I did hear how he got that nickname. Do you know how he got that nickname? I just heard it the other day. Yeah.
No, I never heard that story.
His dog was named the Duke.
Oh, there you go.
And there you go, the dog,
okay.
The law dog.
Well, maybe I ought to be named after my mule, Lori Darlin. So I ride a mule. I'm not a horse guy. I'm a mule guy. But Lori Darlin and I are pretty close.
I'm not calling you Lori Darlin. That doesn't work for you. It's not masculine enough. But if you're just tuning in right now, I've got Matt Dana from the Quarles and Brady Law Firm here in the studio.
Yeah,
and we're talking about the conversation. That's what we left off at.
Conversation.
And we're talking about...
I hope you're not talking about the conversation I'm thinking about.
Well, I don't know what you're thinking about, but, if it's not X-rated, you're welcome to share it. But, the conversation is a thing that we've talked about over and over again here on our show. And it's not something that you just have one time.
Yeah.
It's something you got to work at, and you got to be able to break the ice and sit down with the ones you love to have this conversation. And one of the things I said in the last segment, which makes Matt Dana very unique, is that you have come up with creative ways, legal ways, but creative ways to be able to preserve a loved one's, or should I say your clients'
wishes,
wishes and their wealth.
Yeah.
Because you're a CPA. You what else did you
I'm an attorney. I have a master's degree in tax. I'm also a licensed stockbroker.
Wow.
Carry a lot of licenses.
And you used to work for Northwestern Mutual. I mean, a very good company.
That was my career in college and law school, was selling life insurance. And I still give Northwestern Mutual and the whole life insurance industry a lot of credit for the way that I think and deal with people. I still think the life insurance business is the most creative part of estate planning. They offer some very good products and solutions, and I think people are too quick to say, "Oh, it's life insurance, I can't stand it." But listen to the tax aspects of it.
Well, it's interesting you say that too, and my industry, and I shared this with the listening audience, and I shared this with you on the top of the hour when we first started that. We're one of over 700 companies that exist here.
I can't even believe that.
And the challenge,
most of those are just really small mom and pop shops.
A lot of them are, but a lot of franchises. We got over 70 franchises, and every one.
Are they 70 different franchises?
70 different, and every one of them has a location here. I've got one franchise that has 9 locations in Maricopa County.
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
So I will say this: there are some great operators, including franchises out there.
Well, I see them a lot in airline magazines when you're flying and stuff, and you're looking at in these different magazines on airplanes. You see where these nursing care franchises are popping up, and
right.
I just don't know how you do that. How do you create the relationships with your caregivers and you screen them properly? And I just don't know how they can operate like that.
Well, that and the operator, the person that runs that shop, are they in it purely for the money, or are they in it because they have heart and compassion?
Yeah.
The money's the byproduct of it.
Yeah.
And if you do a really good job and you care for people like you would want to be cared, you can make a nice life and a nice living. And I think where I'm going with this is that because of that, we do have some bad actors in our world that provide health
Both
care.
of us do.
And you do too, and the insurance industry does as well, life insurance.
It's a problem. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because there's bad people in the industry, you can't stereotype everybody. And
I think that's why you get that comment every once in a while. It's like, oh, yeah, it's just life insurance. Because there are some people out there that they just try to take that square peg and push it in a round hole, and that's not the right solution for the person.
Yeah.
You really need to understand the person, the mind, body, and the spirit, and the whole enchilada, and really understand all the moving parts.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things that I want you to really delve into, if you wouldn't mind, is really talk about your firm and really how you look at a client and the client's needs.
Well, I think when you come to estate planning, you go back to the very basics, and a lot of, the trouble with a lot of lawyers and a lot of us, we go to conferences and stuff, and we spend 90% of our time talking about things that only happen 10% of the time. Estate planning is very basic. It's very simple. You need 5 documents, and I'll go on record. Everybody needs 5 documents. You need to have your health care power of attorney. You need to have your financial power of attorney. You need to have a revocable living trust. You need to have a pour-over will. And then you were talking about having that living will to pull the plug if something happens to you.
Right.
I mean, you have those 5 documents, you've solved probably 95% of things that could go wrong in your life.
The one other document, and I think we talked about at the break, is Arizona's
mental health.
Yeah, Arizona's unique in that we have the ability to have a mental health.
When we just combine our mental health power of attorney in with our health care power
Perfect.
of attorney, it's just 2 sections into one document. But I think you're right. And what can go wrong if people don't have these documents? Well, let's take a husband and wife that thinks life is great and it is great. Then all of a sudden, husband's in a car accident or a heart attack or whatever, and he goes into a coma. Still alive, in a coma. Now, the question, a lot of people think, well, the spouse, we're a community property state, so she can sign anywhere where we need husband's signature. That's not true, Bob. People confuse community property, which is an ownership right, with legal rights to sign documents. And if that wife doesn't have these powers of attorney that we talked about, if the car is in the husband's name and the wife's not on the title, she can't sign it over. Or if they're in the process of selling a house and the husband can't show up to sign documents, she can't sign for him. Don't think that because you're married in this state, you have automatic right to sign for your spouse.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It really is. And we've talked about this on the show, too. It's not even just with our aging adult population. And it
could be anybody.
And it's not just, with that kind of power, for the automobile. What about those that are in the hospital? And I've talked about on the show, if you've got a child that's 18 years and older, HIPAA
privacy.
It protects that information of what's going on. So, God forbid you have a loved one that has an automobile accident and ends up in an ER, and you want to find out what's going on.
Just because you're the parent, it's not an automatic right. It's just because your spouse.
But if you have those documents that you talked about,
then you have the right.
You have that
you
right.
Have the power.
You have the power.
Power of attorney.
Power to the people.
Power. There you go.
Well, we're coming up on another break here, and you're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You, and I've got Matt Dana from Quarles and Brady. We will be right back.
Do you need to sell your home and want to get top dollar using a proven marketing system? How about a guarantee to sell your home in 59 days or less? Be sure to listen to Brian from the Yelder team at Home Smart as he joins Ken Morgan on Business for Breakfast this and every Friday morning at 7:24 for a new segment called Buyers and Sellers. Brian will discuss preparation, marketing, strategy, and what buyers are looking for to get your top dollar for your home. So tune in for Buyers and Sellers this and every Friday at 7:24 a.m. right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ray Lucia, and I talk about your money, your business, and your life right here on the radio. So if you happen to have any money-type questions, well, worry not. That's because I'm here to provide you with the most sound financial advice in the country. So tune in to the Ray Lucia Show every weekday, 10 to 11 a.m., right here on Money Radio 1510 a.m. and 99.3 FM.
Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Precious Timber with Alex Wilson on Money Radio 1510 a.m. and 99.3 FM.
If you're like most businesses, your response to computer needs is reactionary. Something goes wrong and you call someone to fix it. TeamLogic IT has a better way. It's called System Watch. Managed IT Services. System Watch monitors 24/7, performs remote diagnostics, identifies risks, schedules scans for virus and spyware, plus generates reports that keep you up to date.
I am Alan Zell of Zell Commercial Real Estate Services, a commercial real estate company. It is imperative that our computer network runs smoothly. Since engaging TeamLogic IT, we have a stable network as TeamLogic IT has become our source to avoid and eliminate any technology challenges.
So while you're busy running your business, TeamLogic will be busy running your computer systems. For a limited time, TeamLogic is offering a free system assessment, including a 2-week free trial of System Watch. TeamLogic IT, taking the worry out of your technology. 602-254-5558 or go to tryteamlogic.com. Western WiMAX, providing reliable internet solutions you can trust. Locally owned and operated for over 12 years. Western WiMAX, 480-575-7550.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm your host, Bob Roth, and I've got Matt Dana from the Quarles and Brady Law Firm here in our studio today. If you missed the first 3 segments, it's hard to believe, Matt, we're down to our 4th.
Oh, my gosh.
We're having fun here, but if you missed the first 3, you can catch it right on our website at cypresshomecare.com. There's a radio button up at the top or down halfway, and you can catch the first 3 segments and this last segment right now, and catch almost 80 others that we've done since we've been on the show for about 19 months.
It's nice.
It's been great, and it's been great having you on, and I said this at the end of the second segment. Just as the music was coming on, I was talking about planning, and I was talking about Joe Robbie.
Yeah,
and it's hard
Miami Dolphins,
and it's hard to believe that Joe Robbie's been gone 25 years now.
Yeah,
I mean 1990s when
we always use him as an example, don't we?
He's a great example
of what went wrong.
Because what went wrong was because of the tax code. Mm-hmm. Their family had to sell the team and sell the Orange Bowl, right?
Yeah, with lack of planning, lack of liquidity, lack of estate taxes, and I'm glad you
Joe Robbie Stadium. I said the Orange Bowl, but right. Joe Robbie Stadium.
Well, that's the Orange Bowl's played there.
Right.
But, we use that example all the time, and I know you wanted to compare that to Steinbrenner, and I want to compare it to Jerry Colangelo. Because, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I've got a quote, and it's in the Arizona Republic.
Yep.
And I saw Jerry at his son's game a couple years ago, and I asked him directly. I'd heard about this quote, but now I've found it. One of his motivating factors in selling the Phoenix Suns was to create liquidity to pay the estate tax. Now, you take the Suns back then, I think Robert Sarver bought the team for around $400 million. Colangelo dies with a $400 million estate. Now, I know he had partners and everything, but the estate tax would be 40% of everything essentially above $5 million. And it's due in 9 months after death. And if everybody in the world knows, like on Joe Robbie, that the estate tax is due and he has no way to pay it without selling the team, what does that do to the price of the ball team when it has to be sold and liquidated so we can pay estate taxes?
Doesn't do very well. The buyer can buy really well.
Yeah. You want to be the buyer in that situation.
Absolutely.
And anytime you have a chance to buy something that everybody in the world knows has to be sold in a short period of time, the seller cannot be too picky. And I think that's where you wanted to go with the Joe Robbie analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, you hate to pick on the family, but it's
right.
a classic. All professionals use that in the estate planning world because the Dolphins had to be sold at a fire sale. And my understanding, I haven't confirmed this, but my understanding, it was the owner of Blockbuster Video that came in and bought the team.
Wayne Huizenga.
And the question is, how much of a discount did he receive because it had to be sold quickly? But, I salute there again Jerry Colangelo for having the forethought. I mean, he's got good advisors, obviously.
Absolutely.
That said, Jerry, the estate tax is real. I think the problem here, Bob, a lot of people don't think the estate tax is real. It's almost like something you talk about that happens to somebody else, but it's not going to happen to me.
And some people who have this problem don't even really care about it, Matt, because they're like, it's not going to be my problem, that's their problem. But they should care about it. If you really love your spouse and your children, you're going to stick them with a big problem.
Well, and I think what leads to the deception or the misbelief is because between spouses you don't have the estate tax. So dad can die,
right?
Mom can inherit, and there is no estate tax.
Exactly.
So that gets everybody thinking, well, Joe just died, he's worth $10 million, there was no estate tax. Well, Joe had a wife, and we don't tax spouses. Now, when the spouse dies and it goes to the kids, the IRS isn't going to be so friendly and so forgiving. They want 40% above the $5 million.
And it's still 40% today.
Still today.
But what happened with Steinbrenner?
He lucked out.
He lucked out, and I mean, you think about it. 2010
died the right year.
He died the right year because that year it was zero.
I like to play the game with people, and it's one of those lawyery answers. True or false? Was the estate tax repealed in 2010? The general answer, yes, it was. And Steinbrenner died in 2010, and there was no estate tax that year. But it's really a kind of a question that's not the exact legal answer. If you remember right, in 2011, they ended up passing, they introduced the estate tax again in 2011, and then they gave people an option in 2010 whether they wanted to be part of the estate tax system or not. But you remember with Steinbrenner, there was a trade-off. Yes, he died and there was no estate tax, but also there was no step up in basis on the asset.
Right.
So when the team was sold, or if it was sold, they still have his carryover low basis. So the true answer is there was an estate tax still in 2010, but it was optional.
Right.
They gave you both systems.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really
so
is.
I remember, Trevor and I, we do a lot of estate tax returns, and we had, I think in 2010, 3 or 4 significant clients die. And it wasn't just an easy answer, the estate tax was repealed, let's don't pay any tax, because you had to look at what's going on with the cost basis and how important is that step up. And there were some situations where you are better off taking the step up and being part of the estate tax system, especially if you left a surviving spouse. Because now you could get the step up and you could eliminate the estate tax because of the marital deduction. So, anytime Congress tries to simplify something, they make our jobs better, because any attempt to simplify makes it more complicated.
Ain't that the truth? And I will tell you, the listening audience hearing this today, and we talked about it in the first segment about how you can go to LegalZoom and get documents. You can go and order home care through an Uber-like application. But really, when you sit down and you think about it and you listen to what Matt just said about Step Up, talk about estate, this is all very complex.
How do people know what's going on
there? You don't know, and you need advisors. You need somebody that is in your camp and is your coach. And I'm not talking just for the children. I'm talking about that person's life. You know, it's interesting because my family, we used to have a family attorney, and then we left that family attorney. And I remember saying to my dad, I said, Dad, you need your own attorney. He goes, no, the family needs an attorney. I said, no, you need your attorney.
His interests are different than your interests.
Absolutely. And you need somebody that's looking out for your interests so that your will, your wishes, your desires will be carried out when you are incapacitated and when you have left this earth.
Sure.
And that is so important.
Yeah.
It really is. And it goes back to the conversation.
Well, I think another thing, you know, Bob, I'm looking at you. I see a lot of gray hair. You're looking at me. You see some gray hair.
Why is it I have more?
Why? Because you know, you look better. I mean, you got that gray hair like a silver fox. You know,
but I have 3 kids. I have 3 kids. How many kids do you
have? I have 5, and they're all married. But the point is, I had a client I met with in Tucson yesterday, and Quarles and Brady has a nice office down in Tucson as well. And he liked my age, and I told him, and he realized this, my views of estate planning have been molded and shaped by my life experiences. They've been molded and shaped by me having children, me having grandchildren, experiencing divorces within the family, seeing difficult financial struggles within a family. All of this has reshaped my thought process on an estate plan. And I think that's something you can never get from an internet.
Right.
My life experiences as an estate planner, seeing 10,000 clients and aging and experienced life myself drastically changes what I do differently in a will and trust than I did 30 years ago. And I see that now with my sons, Rylas and Zach. They're both estate planning lawyers and have a great practice, and much younger and younger generation, but how they do things dramatically different the way I do things.
You know, experience does matter. Yeah. It really, really does, and it shapes who we are. And, you know, Matt, I remember having lunch with you a couple years ago, and you and your daughter, she was like 9 months pregnant, had an automobile accident.
Yeah.
And that was a scary time.
Oh, my gosh.
But, I mean, thank God you were okay.
Yeah.
Thank God she was okay. The baby was fine. But, I mean, it's experiences like that where you say to yourself, you look back, wow, I'm so glad I had a plan in place.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that my family would have been taken care of. God forbid something drastic would have happened to us.
We had a guy in our church die a couple months ago of a dramatic heart attack at 62 years old. 0 life insurance.
Wow.
How does that happen? How do you have a wife and kids
with
and not be responsible? I don't get it.
Well,
I mean,
for our listening audience,
this is a smart guy.
Yeah, for our listening audience, you need to plan. And, you know, we're coming up on a final break, and I want to just give a shout-out to the audience so they know how to get a hold of you if they need to reach you. You can reach Matt online at Quarles.com. That's QUARLES.com, or 602-229-5200.
Thank you, Bob.
Matt, great having you on the show.
Good to be back.
Make it a great day.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Market Wrap with Mo Ansari is your daily source for financial news and analysis. With over 30 years of trading experience, Mo shares his thoughts on the markets, answers your financial questions, and features guest experts from around the world covering a variety of investment topics. Visit MarketWrapWithMo.com for more info about the show and listen to Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
And 99.3 FM.
Is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. Are you a fool? About your money, that is? Then be sure to catch the Motley Fool Gang, Saturdays at 5 p.m. It's fast, funny, and informative. The Dow is down 137 points, the Nasdaq down 31, and the S&P 500 is down 14 points now.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news.